Here's how my dad and I built an awesome custom desk using 160-year-old boards that were in my house and more. These tongue and groove boards were removed during demolition a couple of years ago and ever since have been stored inside of an old barn. They have some minor imperfections, but when we're finished, it should look great. Back then, they used nails, so first I removed the nails from each board using a stubby flathead screwdriver and hammer. Most of these boards are so old that the tongue and the groove were ripped off during demolition. So next, I'm simply ripping them off using a table saw. I'm sure that 160 years ago, the finish on these boards was to absolute perfection, but after over a century of what I'd call abuse, they surely don't look or feel the best. So I'm simply sanding them down with first 80 grit, then 120 grit sandpaper, making them smooth once again. Next, grabbing two boards, I prepared to glue them together using Titebond 2 premium wood glue. Now there are some spots that are like that, where the board just kind of kicks up because it's warped and it's so old. While we're gluing it together, I'm going to be putting some big cinder blocks on top of the wood, assuring that the wood will stay flat. A couple hours later, and it's time to remove the bricks, towels, and most of the clamps. Next, I moved it off to the side, which would allow me to basically copy and paste what I had just done. This process was pretty simple. First you glued, then you clamped the two boards together, and lastly you place a towel on top and a brick on either side. After a couple days of doing this, the desktop was finally what I could call a desktop. One solid piece. I decided to go with about 55 inches for the length of the desk, which seemed to be about right for the spot where I was putting it. Using a circular saw, I then carefully cut off both sides of the desk. If you're this far in the video, now would be a great time to show some support, give this video a like, and maybe even subscribe. Got it all cut and it looks pretty good. So we're probably gonna go ahead, sand this down some more, make it look 100% before we stain it. Using 180 grit sandpaper, I then sanded the desk down. I tried using some wood glue and some extra sawdust to make a mixture that would fill in the bigger cracks on the desk. To both mine and your surprise, it's actually been about 2 or 3 weeks since I've even touched this desktop. I've just kind of been caught up in the mind of getting the metal frame done on it, and so far it's turning out pretty well. I'm not going to have too much film of that, but yeah, y'all are just going to stay tuned. Now, the desktop is actually pretty smooth considering how much time I've spent on it, but there still is a lot of dips and boards that are uneven. So to fix that, I'm going to be using this belt sander with I think it's like a 60 grit sandpaper, so it should remove some board really quick, and we should have this desktop done before I know it. After being extremely satisfied with how the desk looked and felt, I decided to wipe away all the sawdust and prepare for the finish. For the finish, I decided to go with polyurethane warm gloss. Why, you might ask? Polyurethane is super easy to apply and the results are absolutely insane. Using an applicator, I then spread the polyurethane evenly across the desk. After applying a thick coat, it was time to seal up the can and let it dry overnight. Well, would you look at that? This desk turned out absolutely amazing after putting on some good old polyurethane warm semi-gloss clear coat or whatever you call it. I mean, just look at that. I have absolutely no words. I absolutely love the different shades of colors in the wood. I mean, just look at that, especially on camera, you can see really easily. We have like lighter shade of wood here on the exact same board actually. Lighter shade over here and then a little bit of darker stuff in the middle. I just love how it's turning out so far. We are gonna have to do a second coat, I believe, but first we have to wait for the first coat to dry. The next day, I applied one last thin coat of polyurethane onto the desk. Meanwhile, the frame was getting built by using 1-inch angle iron. I didn't show much or even do much on this. It was mainly my dad, so thanks to him. Drop a comment, let me know if you want me to go more into detail on how the frame was built. Okay, so this is the spray paint I'm using. It's just like, yeah, you can see. The frame is finished. I actually wet sanded it off, all the welding dust and all that off. Did that off camera, and yeah, it's basically ready to get sprayed in and let it dry and put it inside my room. After spraying the desk frame in, I could not believe it was finished. All the time, work, and energy had all been worth it. I mean, just look at it. As we just saw, the desk turned out absolutely beautiful. I could not be more proud of how it turned out. It was not only me doing all the work, but also my dad. Huge thanks to him for welding in and helping me with the metal frame. Wouldn't have been possible without him. The metal frame turned out absolutely amazing as well. Gave it sort of that rustic feel that I was wanting. I hope this video inspired you to go find those skills that God has given you and use them for good. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give this video a big thumbs up if you do think I deserve it, and subscribe as well. Jesus loves you. We will catch you in the next one.